I just kind of went inside and I didn't realize how bad it was. I feel like anytime anything happens, it's adrenaline or something. You don't really know until you take a second to assess.
For nearly 2 decades, Carrie Underwood has been America's golden girl, the small-town farm girl turned international superstar. Her story was supposed to be one of faith, family, and flawless triumph. Yet now, the latest headlines have ripped through the very image that Carrie spent years protecting. Whispers of scandal, struggles, and unspoken truths are dominating the airwaves. Fans who once saw her as untouchable are now left asking questions they never thought they would. What is really going on behind the microphone? What once seemed like an unshakable legacy now teeters on uncertainty. This is not just another celebrity headline. This is the unraveling of a carefully crafted image. The media is calling it shocking. Fans are calling it heartbreaking. But behind the glitter and the spotlight lies a deeper truth. One Carrie herself never wanted the world to see. Before the headlines, before the controversies, and long before her name became one of the most recognized in the entertainment industry, Carrie Underwood was simply a girl from Chakota, Oklahoma. Born in 1983, she grew up on a family farm surrounded by dirt roads, church pews, and the simplicity of small-town living. Her early life was ordinary in every sense. She sang in church, performed at local events, and dreamed of what most small-town kids dream of, something bigger than the horizon that seemed to box them in. For Carrie, that dream was music, but no one could have predicted just how far her voice would take her. By her teenage years, Carrie's talent was undeniable, but it wasn't until 2004 that destiny came calling. A 21-year-old college student at Northeastern State University, Carrie decided on a whim to audition for the 4th season of American Idol. It was a decision that would change her life forever. From the moment she stepped on stage, with her fresh-faced innocence and powerhouse vocals, she captivated not only the judges, but millions of viewers at home. Simon Cowell himself predicted she would not only win, but outsell every winner before her. That bold prediction turned out to be more than just a passing remark. It became prophecy. Carrie won American Idol in 2005, and with that victory came instant stardom. Her debut single, Inside Your Heaven, shot to #1 on the Billboard Hot 100, making her the first country artist to debut at the top of the all-genre chart. But this was only the beginning. Her debut album, Some Hearts, released later that year, became the best-selling solo female debut in country music history. Tracks like Jesus, Take the Wheel and Before He Cheats became anthems, earning her Grammy Awards, CMA trophies, and a place in the heart of a nation. Overnight, Carrie had transformed from small-town dreamer to country music's newest queen. Her rise wasn't just about the music. Carrie's image was crafted to perfection, wholesome, faith-driven, and relatable. She was marketed as the perfect blend of girl-next-door charm and superstar presence. Unlike many artists who rose quickly only to fade just as fast, Carrie cemented her career with consistent hits and an image that seemed impenetrable. Fans admired not just her voice, but the way she carried herself. Modest, graceful, and far removed from the drama that often defined celebrity culture. As the years passed, Carrie's career only soared higher. She sold out arenas, dominated award shows, and broke records with ease. She became a fixture at the Grand Ole Opry and a beloved icon in both country and mainstream pop. Unlike many of her peers who struggled with reinvention, Carrie seemed untouchable. Her career trajectory was a carefully plotted climb upward, and she never once seemed to stumble. Yet success, especially at the scale Carrie achieved, comes at a cost. With fame came expectations, with perfection came pressure, and with every hit single came the demand for another. For a time, Carrie balanced it all flawlessly, but as the headlines now remind us, even the most carefully constructed images eventually reveal cracks. The story of her rise is remarkable, but it is also the foundation for why the current headlines feel so shocking. Because for nearly 2 decades, Carrie Underwood wasn't just a singer. She was a symbol of everything country music fans believed still existed: purity, stability, and hope. But what happens when the symbol begins to break? From the moment Carrie Underwood stepped into the national spotlight, her career was built on more than just her undeniable voice. It was built on an image. To millions, she wasn't just a singer. She was the embodiment of values that country music fans held sacred: modesty, faith, family, and discipline. The industry saw quickly that Carrie's story was marketable, not because she was flashy or controversial, but because she represented stability in a world that was anything but. Her management, her record label, and even Carrie herself worked tirelessly to ensure that her public persona never slipped out of place. Every red carpet appearance was calculated, every interview carefully worded, and every photo released to the press designed to portray her as the flawless girl next door who just happened to become one of the most powerful vocalists of her generation. This wasn't by accident, it was strategy, and it worked. Fans and media alike referred to her as one of the cleanest celebrities in the business, someone who never gave the tabloids anything to sink their teeth into. Unlike her peers who fell into scandals with alcohol, infidelity, or personal drama, Carrie seemed untouchable. Her reputation as a devoted wife to hockey star Mike Fisher and a loving mother became as much a part of her identity as her music itself. Yet, behind the curtain, maintaining that perfection came with incredible pressure. To live a life where every move could be dissected meant that Carrie had to become a master of self-control, often suppressing her real emotions and experiences to uphold the standard the world expected of her. Industry insiders would later admit that Carrie's team was fiercely protective, controlling what stories made it to the press and working quickly to shut down any hint of negativity before it could spread. There were whispers of tensions with other artists, rumors of behind-the-scenes disagreements, and even struggles with her own mental health. But none of it ever seemed to reach the surface. Until now. The recent headlines feel shocking precisely because Carrie's image has been crafted as nearly unbreakable. When you build a persona around purity and flawlessness, even the smallest crack looks like a devastating fracture. What makes these revelations so impactful isn't just what they reveal. It's the betrayal fans feel when they realize that the image they adored may have been more fragile, more carefully guarded, and more human than they ever imagined. Carrie once stood as proof that a superstar could rise without losing themselves to fame's darker temptations. But if the headlines are to be believed, the truth may be more complicated. And in an industry where image can matter just as much as talent, Carrie's once perfect shield is now under fire. For years, Carrie Underwood seemed immune to the cycles of gossip that swallowed so many of her peers. But no image, no matter how carefully polished, can last forever. It began subtly. Online whispers, vague social media posts, and speculative articles hidden in the corners of entertainment blogs. At first, they were dismissed as nothing more than the kind of baseless chatter that trails every celebrity. But as time passed, the whispers grew louder, and soon they were amplified by headlines that no one could ignore. Fans began noticing the small things: Carrie's absence from certain events, the uncharacteristic tension in a few interviews, and the cryptic lyrics woven into her newer songs. Media outlets pounced on the idea that these subtle cracks were signs of something larger brewing beneath the surface. Suddenly, there were stories about disagreements with her record label, conflicts over creative control, and rumors of strained friendships in the country music world. Some even claimed that rival artists were whispering behind closed doors about Carrie's struggles to maintain the image she had worked so hard to protect. Then came the personal speculation. Headlines questioned the stability of her marriage to Mike Fisher, painting pictures of quiet separations and private struggles that stood in stark contrast to the fairy tale image fans had clung to for years. The truth behind those claims remains elusive, but the suggestion alone was enough to spark debates across social media platforms. Every fan with an opinion, every critic with a theory, every gossip site hungry for clicks joined the chorus. And soon Carrie's name was trending not for her music, but for speculation about her life. Industry insiders added fuel to the fire, with claims that Carrie was increasingly withdrawn, exhausted from the demands of touring, and perhaps even considering stepping away from the spotlight altogether. What made the whispers so damaging was the contrast between the Carrie Underwood fans thought they knew and the Carrie now portrayed in the headlines. The girl who once represented stability and purity was suddenly the subject of doubt and suspicion. For many, the disconnect was jarring. And like all rumors, the less Carrie addressed them, the more powerful they became. Silence, once her greatest tool of protection, now became evidence in the eyes of critics who claimed her refusal to speak was confirmation that something was wrong. Whispers became questions, questions became speculation, and speculation turned into headlines plastered across news outlets around the world. To fans, it felt like the beginning of a storm. To Carrie, it was a reminder that no matter how hard you try to protect your image, fame has a way of finding your weaknesses and exposing them at the worst possible moment. Carrie Underwood's career has always been marked by triumph, but now the industry and her fans are beginning to wonder if she is standing at a dangerous crossroads. For nearly 2 decades, she has been the reigning queen of modern country music, selling out arenas, collecting Grammy Awards, and becoming a fixture at the Grand Ole Opry. But as the music industry shifts, as younger artists rise through the streaming era, and as social media reshapes how stars connect with fans, Carrie's dominance no longer feels as secure as it once did. Critics have begun to ask difficult questions. Can Carrie maintain her legendary status in an industry that seems to reinvent itself every few years? Or is she entering the stage of her career where reinvention is no longer optional, but necessary? For much of her career, Carrie played by the rules, delivering polished albums, powerhouse vocals, and high-production tours that showcased her as an unmatched professional. Yet in an era where vulnerability and raw authenticity dominate fan expectations, some argue that Carrie's polished image may be working against her. Younger artists like Casey Musgraves and Maren Morris have carved out space with bold risks, blending genres and tackling controversial themes, while Carrie's brand has remained rooted in the traditional values that first made her famous. Some see this as stability, others interpret it as stagnation. The latest headlines have only amplified these concerns. For the first time, Carrie is no longer just being compared to her peers. She is being scrutinized under a harsher light, where every career move is analyzed not as triumph, but as potential decline. Even her recent albums, though critically praised, have not dominated charts in the same way her earlier work did, leaving fans to wonder if the golden era of Carrie Underwood might be dimming. Touring has also raised questions. Carrie's shows remain spectacles of production, with dazzling stage setups and flawless performances. But behind the scenes, whispers suggest she is weary of the relentless grind. Some insiders claim she has privately spoken of scaling back her commitments, a move that would protect her health and family life, but could also accelerate her retreat from the top tier of the industry. This crossroads is not just about music, it is about identity. Carrie built her career as the embodiment of perfection, but as the industry evolves, perfection is no longer the currency it once was. Authentic flaws, raw confessions, and bold risks are what fans crave. And so the question emerges, will Carrie adapt to a changing world, or will she cling to the image that once made her untouchable? Standing at this point, with headlines swirling and critics circling, Carrie Underwood is no longer simply America's country sweetheart. She is an artist being tested in ways she never has before. The next decisions she makes may not only shape her music, but also determine how history remembers her. Behind the dazzling lights of sold-out arenas and the immaculate image crafted for public consumption lies the private world of Carrie Underwood. A world built around family and faith, but also marked by struggles rarely spoken of openly. From the very beginning of her career, Carrie has been vocal about her Christian faith, often crediting it for keeping her grounded in an industry where temptation and chaos run rampant. Songs like "Jesus, Take the Wheel" were not only commercial successes, but also deeply personal statements about the core values she refused to compromise. Offstage, Carrie embraced the role of devoted wife after marrying former NHL star Mike Fisher in 2010, and together they built a home centered around love, tradition, and raising their 2 sons. To fans, their marriage looked like a fairy tale, the perfect match between America's country princess and a handsome, faith-driven athlete. But behind the smiling photos and public appearances, the truth was far more complex. By Carrie's own admission in interviews, her journey to motherhood was fraught with heartbreak, as she endured multiple miscarriages that left her questioning her faith and herself. Though she eventually shared those experiences with the public, at the time, they were private battles that weighed heavily on her spirit. In moments of despair, even her unwavering faith was tested, leaving her to wrestle with the very questions she once seemed to have answers for. These struggles bled into her music and her performances, but for years they were hidden under the perfection of her brand. As the headlines now swirl, the strain on her personal life is once again a topic of speculation. Whispers suggest that her marriage to Mike, while still intact, has weathered storms that fans never suspected. Life under the spotlight amplifies every disagreement, every separation during tours, every difference in priorities. Insiders hint that the couple has leaned heavily on counseling and faith to sustain them through challenges that could have easily torn them apart. Though neither Carrie nor Mike has ever confirmed these rumors, the silence has only fueled the speculation. Faith has always been Carrie's anchor, but even faith can be a double-edged sword. While it has given her strength to endure her darkest days, it has also added pressure to live up to the expectations of being a role model. To stumble, to break, to admit weakness feels like failure to those who see her as the embodiment of spiritual strength. The weight of being both a superstar and a symbol of faith has been immense. Leaving Carrie caught between the human struggles she faces privately and the divine example fans expect her to be publicly. The headlines that have begun to peel back the curtain on her personal life are not just about scandals or rumors. They are about the painful reminder that even icons carry burdens, and even faith cannot erase the scars left behind by loss, doubt, and the relentless demands of fame. As fans read the stories and speculate about what is happening behind closed doors, one truth emerges with painful clarity. Carrie Underwood may be a superstar, but she is also a woman fighting to hold together the most important pieces of her life, even as the world tries to tear them apart. For the public, Carrie Underwood's life has always looked like the embodiment of success. A glittering career, a picture-perfect family, and an image unmarred by scandal. But behind closed doors, the story is far more complicated. Those closest to her have quietly admitted that the pressures of maintaining an untouchable image have taken their toll. Friends describe Carrie as fiercely private, someone who has always kept her inner struggles hidden, even from those she trusts most. Yet cracks have begun to appear, revealing a woman who has silently battled insecurities, exhaustion, and the relentless demands of stardom. Touring has been one of her greatest triumphs, but also one of her greatest burdens. Weeks and months spent on the road, constant rehearsals, and the pressure to deliver flawless performances have often left Carrie physically drained and emotionally distant from her family. Insiders claim that she has broken down backstage more than once, overwhelmed by the demands of living up to the flawless standard her fans expect. Whispers of vocal strain, health scares, and emotional burnout have long circulated, but until recently, they never gained traction in the public eye. Some of the most startling revelations have come from those who have worked with her in the industry. Former collaborators suggest that behind her gracious exterior lies a woman who feels the constant need to assert control over her image, her music, and her narrative. They describe her as meticulous, sometimes to the point of obsession, unwilling to let even the smallest details slip through unchecked. While this drive has made her one of the most consistent artists in country music, it has also fueled tensions with producers, label executives, and even fellow artists who sometimes interpret her perfectionism as distance or even arrogance. Adding to the private weight is the aftermath of her highly publicized accident in 2017, when she suffered severe facial injuries after a fall outside her home. Though Carrie eventually spoke about it and appeared on stage again with her trademark confidence, those close to her suggest the ordeal left lasting scars, not just physically, but emotionally. The fear of losing her identity as a performer, the anxiety of stepping back into the spotlight, and the pressure of media speculation about her appearance all combined to deepen the cracks in her otherwise impenetrable armor. What fans rarely see is the toll of being both an artist and an image. Carrie has carried the weight of two identities: the real woman, flawed and vulnerable, and the superstar, flawless and untouchable. Maintaining both has been exhausting, and behind closed doors, it has often meant tears, self-doubt, and an unrelenting battle to hold everything together. The headlines now surfacing hint at these hidden struggles, peeling back the carefully constructed veneer and exposing the humanity beneath the star. For fans, it may feel shocking to imagine Carrie in such moments of weakness. But for those who know her best, it is simply the truth of a woman who has given everything to her art and paid the price with pieces of herself. The real story is not about scandal. It is about sacrifice, the hidden costs of fame, and the truth that even the brightest stars live with shadows that the spotlight can never erase. When the headlines about Carrie Underwood began to circulate, the first and loudest voices to respond were her fans. For nearly 20 years, they had stood by her side, filling stadiums, buying every album, and defending her against critics. To many, Carrie wasn't just a performer. She was a role model, a symbol of grace and strength, who embodied the values they held dear. But as the stories of hidden struggles, rumored tensions, and cracks in her perfect image spread across news outlets and social media, that once united fan base found itself divided in a way no one could have anticipated. On one side are the loyalists, the die-hard fans who refuse to believe anything negative about the star they have adored for so long. To them, the rumors are nothing but fabricated gossip designed to tear down a strong woman at the height of her career. They argue passionately online, dismissing articles and posts that cast Carrie in a negative light, labeling the media as vultures who prey on the innocent for profit. These fans cling to her music, her past interviews, and her public appearances as proof that the woman they admire is still exactly who she always claimed to be. On the other side, however, are those who feel shaken, even betrayed, by the headlines. For them, Carrie's perfection was part of the bond. They admired her because she seemed above the chaos that consumed other stars. Now, faced with stories suggesting otherwise, they find themselves questioning what is real and what has been carefully crafted illusion. To them, the silence from Carrie and her team is not strength, but a form of evasion, a refusal to be transparent with the very people who built her career. This division has played out across countless online platforms, with fan pages, forums, and comment sections turning into battlegrounds. Hashtags trend daily, some in defense of Carrie, others demanding truth. In one corner, supporters post old clips of her performances and emotional acceptance speeches as proof of her authenticity. In another, skeptics dissect every lyric of her recent songs, claiming to uncover hidden meanings that point toward struggles she has refused to acknowledge. Beyond the fan base, the wider public watches with fascination. For casual listeners who admired Carrie from afar, the spectacle of a seemingly untouchable star facing scrutiny has become just another story in the endless cycle of celebrity drama. Yet for those who have invested years of loyalty, it feels deeply personal. They are not merely spectators, they are participants in a cultural moment that challenges their connection to someone they believed they knew. This division is not just about rumors, it is about the emotional contract between a star and her audience. For nearly 2 decades, Carrie Underwood gave her fans an image of stability, faith, and strength. Now that image is being questioned, and the result is a fractured community struggling to reconcile the woman they believed in with the woman now portrayed in headlines. The fallout is proof of just how much influence Carrie has wielded over her audience, and how painful it can be when the pedestal on which a star is placed begins to crack. As the dust begins to settle around the swirling headlines, one undeniable truth emerges. Carrie Underwood stands at a pivotal moment that could define not only the rest of her career, but her entire legacy. For years, she has been a symbol of stability, of perfection, of what it meant to rise above the chaos of fame and hold on to faith, family, and dignity. But the recent wave of rumors and revelations has changed the conversation. No longer is Carrie being spoken of solely as the powerhouse vocalist with chart-topping hits and sold-out tours. She is being viewed through a new lens, one that forces both her fans and her critics to ask, who is the real Carrie Underwood? And how will history remember her? For some, the answer is simple. They see the headlines as distractions, temporary noise in the story of a woman whose talent and accomplishments will always overshadow gossip. After all, this is an artist who has sold over 70 million records worldwide, won 8 Grammy Awards, and built a career that rivals legends. They argue that her legacy is untouchable, rooted not only in her achievements, but in the undeniable impact she has had on country music. To them, the noise of the moment will fade, but the music will remain. echoing through generations as proof of her greatness. Yet for others, the situation is more complicated. They point out that legacy is not only about achievements, but also about perception, and perception is fragile. If the cracks in Carrie's carefully crafted image continue to widen, if the silence continues to feed speculation, her name may forever carry an asterisk, a reminder that even America's Golden Girl had shadows she couldn't escape. In this view, the headlines are not simply distractions. They are chapters of a larger story about the costs of fame and the impossibility of living up to perfection. The real question now is how Carrie herself will respond. Will she continue to maintain her silence, allowing fans and critics to fight their battles on her behalf? Or will she step forward and reclaim her own narrative? History has shown that the stars who survive scandal are often the ones who confront it head-on, turning vulnerability into strength and using honesty as a bridge back to their audience. For Carrie, who has built her career on guarded privacy, such openness would be a dramatic shift. But it may also be the only way to silence the noise once and for all. The road ahead will not be easy. The industry she helped dominate is evolving rapidly, with new stars rising and old rules collapsing. To remain relevant, Carrie must do more than sing. She must redefine herself for a generation that values authenticity above all else. If she can transform the very cracks in her image into proof of her humanity, she may not only survive this moment, but emerge stronger, reshaping her legacy from one of perfection to one of resilience. In the end, perhaps that is the true measure of greatness. Not the ability to remain flawless, but the courage to stand tall when the flaws are exposed. Carrie Underwood's story is far from over. The latest headlines may have shocked fans, but they are not the final chapter. Whether her legacy is remembered as one of untouchable perfection or as the triumph of a woman who rose above her own humanity to inspire millions will depend on what she does next. For now, the world waits, watching closely as Carrie Underwood steps into the most important act of her career, the act where the image fades, the truth rises, and her legacy is written in full.